Welcome back, everybody, to the Week 6 edition of the 2-on-1 Fast Break podcast. I'm Sean Kennedy, joined as always by Dan Urda, our NFL handicapper here. And Dan, another winning week for you in Week 5. How's it feel to be back over 500 on the year?
Oh, I thought we were talking about the NHL starting tonight.
No.
Oh, we're talking about football?
Yeah, football. That's why you're here. I hope you did your research. As exciting as the Flyers-Bruins matchup might be tonight, that's not the core competency of our site here. So
I'm going to have to make up my picks on the fly then.
All right.
It is nice to be over 500, though. I'm not proud of 8-7 or anything, but it's a heck of a lot better than 0-4.
Actually, 9-8 on the year.
9-8, excuse me.
Yeah, not 8-7, but yeah, started off 0-4 in Week 1 and clawed your way back. Now back on top of 500, and can only go up from here.
Yeah, chasing that 60%.
Yep, that's what the goal is. So we'll rehash your Week 5 picks real quick for everybody out there. You went 2-1 last week. You had two plays on the Saints. One was them -10, and another was them at a pick'em to close out a 3-team teaser that you had open. They actually scared a lot of people out there, especially in those survivor pools that are so popular anymore. They were down by a couple touchdowns, good portion of that game. Ended up coming back to win in overtime, 37-31. What did you take away from that game there?
What I took away from that game is I'm not going to bet the Saints laying any kind of chalk anymore. It was very nerve-wracking. I thought I was going to lose both of these bets for a large majority of this game. Not at first. At first, I thought I was going to win both. New Orleans came out firing. But let me tell you something. They were home against a not great defense. Drew Brees, he might actually be in the part of his career where he's lost a step. His throws, every quarterback's going to have interceptions. Every quarterback's going to have a couple of games where he throws multiple interceptions. But his didn't really look fluky. He really just did not look good. I think the offense is missing Sproles. I think Marcus Colston is significantly lost a step. And as much as Brandon Cooks is trying to pull the weight, you can't really do that as a rookie. I'm very hesitant. I'm lucky. I'm very thankful to come away with one victory from the Saints game, and I'll be very hesitant to take them going forward.
Yeah, that passing offense has really let them down this season. They are still top 10 in the league in DVOA, but a lot of that has been with their rushing attack that's been carrying the team.
Kerry Robinson's been great.
Yeah, Robinson's been great. Ingram even looked really good early in the season before he got hurt. Pierre Thomas is doing his usual thing. So that rushing attack has really boosted them at a time when the passing game hasn't been what it has been in years past. And I'm with you. I'm totally off the Saints. They lost Jarvis Bird to a season-ending injury, so a defense that's the worst in the league right now doesn't look to improve with their big free agent acquisition from this past offseason now out for the year. So I don't trust them at all going forward. I agree with you there.
I think it's an ignorant statement to say I'm off of any, or on any team for the rest of the season. If you remember last year, the Eagles were 1-4 at this point last year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
and anything could happen going forward. They could get better. They could start clicking, and I might be willing to bet them. But what I'm saying is they're on probation right now.
With the information we have currently,
yes. Unless
there's a dramatic shift in lines where suddenly they're 7-point dogs every week. Obviously, you reevaluate your thinking, but they've been favored. I think every week they've been favored. And it just hasn't been working out in that regard. And unless the public perception shifts so much that the lines adjust, I'm off them for the moment.
Yeah.
All right, so you went 1-1 from that game as you lost the -10, but did win the pick-em to close out your teaser.
And really disappointing to lose a teaser in which I waited 2 weeks to make that third leg.
Waiting for that perfect spot. And then it almost let you down, but it didn't. So good win for you there, at least in one regard. And the other play you had last week to finish out a 2-1 Week 5 was their two-team teaser with the Chargers and the Steelers. Chargers absolutely dominated the Jets, shutting them out in a 31-0 victory, and Steelers didn't look great. They had to squeak out a pretty tight game against Jacksonville, 17-9.
And they still covered the original spread, let alone the tease spread.
They did. Obviously, went by 8, covered that 6.5 or 7-point spread, whatever he happened to get it at last week. But the Steelers' offense didn't look as crisp as it has in some prior weeks this season, and I think if only any kind of competent offense and not a rookie quarterback under center for Jacksonville, then they easily could have came away with a victory.
Ironically, if Chad Henne were playing quarterback, they might have won that game.
Yeah. Bortles it was by far his worst performance as a pro.
Of his 1.5 games, that was
his
worst.
He looked very, very confident coming in the second half the week before, but obviously they were down by a whole lot. Maybe the opposition was playing kind of a vanilla defense and just letting him pick some spots that wouldn't be there against a team that geared up to face Bortles all week in the preparation for leading up to the game. So, do you want to talk about the Chargers game at all, or
the Jets are a mess. I really should have just parlayed these two spreads and taken the good odds. But there's really nothing to say about the Chargers game except for if you want to talk about how Brandon Oliver is a new fantasy beast you might want to pick up in your league. Yeah. But for the most part, right? If the season ended right now, Phillip Rivers is the MVP.
He has to be. They lost their third center this past game.
So. That's unbelievable, considering how off Nick Foles has looked losing one center.
Right. Yeah, they've already lost their top 3 choices at center. They're on their 4th-string running back, and the offense is still. Let me check. It's the passing offense is one of the best in the league. The rushing has obviously been awful given the injuries on the line and running back. But yeah, Rivers has just carried that team. Their defense is solid, but not anything out of this world, despite the shutout last week against the Jets. But Rivers is just doing everything he can. He's got a 70% completion percentage right now, and you're right. He would be my pick for MVP 5 weeks ago.
Believe it or not, though, unfortunately, I think I'm looking for a spot to fade San Diego because I don't think they're this good. They've had a very fortunate schedule. They play Oakland this week. They should have another convincing win. So they're going to be overvalued. There's going to be a game sooner or later where they're a point or two favored too much.
Yeah, but except I think we touched on this last week. Their next 5-6 weeks, before going into the Jets game, we looked at the next 5-6 weeks, and their schedule was very easy. And
so in 7 weeks, I'm going to be ready to fade up.
Yeah, so I think the public will even be gaining more steam on the Chargers because they could easily be looking at an 8-2 record or something going in after this easy stretch of games they have coming up.
They're a fun team to watch. Phillip Rivers has the attitude you like to see in a quarterback. They got the young, quick guys like Keenan Allen, now Oliver, and then there's Antonio Gates, who seems to get younger every year now.
Yeah, they're supposed to have Green coming
in. This was Darius Green's big year.
And then Gates has just said, hold on there, youngster. I still got some juice in these old legs.
But yeah, any chance I can tease them like that, I will. Although I'm not this week because I'm a little bit scared of this Oakland game. But we'll see. We'll talk about the games I will be on going forward.
Okay, so that was the Week 5 plays that you were on, a 2-1 week for you. You're now back over 500 on the season. So let's talk about... we're going to go into our Stump the Sharp segment. We had our first segment last week. Unfortunately, you're on your own, not joined in studio. No help this week.
I have no help from the smart one.
No, so we'll kick that off now. Now time for Stump the Sharp.
Riley Cooper.
Not right.
Darren Sproles.
I'll read off 3 questions for you, and then I'll give you a little time to, ponder them while we go into our next segment. So, first question for you, Dan. One team has gone over in every game so far this season. Can you name that team? And on the flip side, there's been one team that's gone under in every game this season. Can you name that team?
Can I try to answer these first, and then you'll give me the third one?
Yeah, sure.
Is the team that's gone over in every game the Atlanta Falcons?
It's not.
It is not the Atlanta Falcons.
No, it's a team that is surprisingly top 5 in the NFL in offensive DVOA right now.
Okay.
But it's not a team you would generally think of as having a high-powered offense. And then that's a natural segue into my third question. There's 4 teams that are in the top 10 in the NFL in both offensive and defensive DVOA. And see how many of those 4 teams you can name that have top 10 offensive and defensive unit.
All right, so team that's gone over in every single game so far. You say that they are a surprise team.
Yep.
It's not going to be one of the usual suspects. It's not going to be Denver. I don't think it's going to be Green Bay.
It's a surprise. It's definitely surprising. It's not one of those offensive juggernauts that you would come to mind immediately.
How about those Baltimore Ravens?
Nope. They are one of the 4 teams that are top in the league in both offensive and defensive. So they do have a top 10 offensive unit so far. They are not the team that's gone over every game.
Wait a minute, is this my boys in St. Louis?
No, it is not Austin Davis. As much as you love Austin Davis,
I do love Austin Davis.
They are at most a middle of the pack offense at this point.
All right, I'm going to guess one more for you, and then if I'm wrong, then you tell me. The last one I'm going to guess is Carolina Panthers.
That is incorrect. The correct answer is the Brian Hoyer-led Cleveland Browns have gone over every game this season. And the reason is not only are Cleveland generally perceived as having like a low-scoring, grinded-out affair, so I think the lines are probably a little lower.
Lines are in the low 40s for them.
Yeah, low 40s for them, whereas a lot of teams, they kind of get around a total of 50 as a rule, but not the case with Cleveland. But also, they're 4th in the NFL in offensive DVOA, so a top 5 unit right now. And Hoyer he's been very solid. I think his QBR or his quarterback ratings are around a 97 right now. He's only got 1 pick on the year, just consistently marching that team up and down the field. Ben Tate was injured, Jordan Cameron was injured, but they keep plugging away. They got a lot of guys stepping up and doing little things for them. They've been really impressive so far.
It's definitely a team that doesn't have any divas. It's whoever's out there just wants to play their part, and I really like that. Whether it's Andrew Hawkins, who will catch 7 or 8 balls every single game, even though he doesn't light up the scoreboard with touchdowns a lot. Like you said, Ben Tate got hurt, and Isaiah Crowell, an undrafted rookie, steps in and looks really good. Another rookie, the guy from the Towson, what's his name? Their other running back. Terrence West. Yeah, he's looked like a NFL back also. Warriors doing a good job, and I think the surprising thing is that you thought week 1, 2, 3 looked really tough, and then they had to bye, and the assumption was Manziel would come in right around then. And not only is he not, no one in Cleveland wants him to right now.
No, he did have the 1 reception called back for penalty, which was very, very exciting, but otherwise hasn't really gotten
It's a completely illegal play.
Yeah, definitely. Very much against the spirit of the rule that was put in just for that purpose. But that was a funny thing to watch anyway.
So one team has gone under.
Yep, so Cleveland has gone over every game this season, and I think the line is finally starting to adjust to that as their total is 47 this week as they host Pittsburgh.
Who also has a very weak defense and an offense that can score.
Yeah,
Would not surprise me if they're 5-0 to the over after this week.
Yeah, I mean, they would have gone over that total when they met in week 1, so wouldn't be any stretch to have them go over again there. All right, so you have a guess for the team that's gone under in every game this season?
I'm going to say my first guess for that would be the Arizona Cardinals.
It is not the Arizona Cardinals.
I thought maybe because they've had such a makeshift quarterback in every game, they kind of like to run out the clock. They don't really take many shots like they normally do. All right, that was that first guess. Under every single game.
Give you one more shot, and I'll give you a clue.
One more shot and then a clue.
Yeah.
Buffalo Bills.
That is correct.
Bam!
He's on the board with the team that carried off their defensive coordinator on his shoulders last week in their victory against Jim Schwartz's former team, the Detroit Lions.
Really sucks because I really like the Bills, and it's hard to like them when they make a huge douche move like that.
Yeah, but the really funny part is he talked about that in off-season training camp. He said, "Hey, when we play Detroit and beat them, carry me off on our shoulders."
Which is like rule number 1 about being carried off on the shoulders. You can't plan it yourself. It's like giving yourself a nickname
or throwing yourself a surprise party.
Yeah, that's a horror. I mean, Jim Schwartz is a douche. Anyone who's watched football in the last couple of years knows that. I'm not going to hold it against the Bills. I like them. They're a good team. And they're a surprising team.
Yeah, so they do have a pretty solid defense. 3rd in the NFL in DVOA on the defensive side of the ball right now, and as a result, they've gone under in every game. Their line this week is a 45 total as they host New England, and you do like something in that game. It's not the total, so we'll talk about that a little later.
Yeah, stick with us to hear that.
All right, so getting to my third and final question, there's 4 teams that are top 10 units in both offense and defensive DVOA. I already mentioned one of them is Baltimore. So kind of give you a freebie on that one. Can you name any of the other 3 teams?
3 more teams that are top 10 in offensive and defensive DVOA.
That's right.
Cincinnati.
Yeah, that's correct. That's one of them. The team that was everybody's darlings until they got dismantled by New England on Monday night or Sunday night.
San Diego.
No, they are not one. They are neither top 10 in offense or defense.
Okay.
Surprisingly,
I'm gonna actually say the Eagles.
no, they. Are,
Well, this is something I shouldn't be asking as a Sharp. Does DVOA not count the interception returns for touchdowns?
No, it doesn't really.
Because the Eagles have the number 1 fantasy defense right now. That's just because they have all these crazy.
It
returns.
doesn't really take into effect scoring defense
All
as
right.
far as that goes.
So we got the ones we got. We got the Ravens.
Got the Ravens and we got the Bengals.
Then we got the Bengals. How about for a surprise defense, the Dallas Cowboys?
No, Dallas has been better than teams people have
Significantly
expected
better.
defensively. They haven't been an absolute seed, but they're still a little bit below average. They do have a top 10 offensive DVOA, thanks in large part to DeMarco Murray and that great offensive line that's been tearing up yards in the ground game.
I'm going to make one more guess, and if it's wrong, I'm going to need a hint with one. My next guess is going to be Denver.
Denver is 1. They are the number 1 team in offensive DVOA and number 2, surprisingly, in defensive DVOA. So those off-season acquisitions like DeMarcus Ware, Talib, they've really paid off. They have a significantly better defensive unit than they had last season. And finally, you got one more team to get.
Last guess, I'm going to say Indianapolis Colts.
No, they're neither in offense or defense in the top 10. You missed possibly the best team in the NFL, and that's the Seattle Seahawks,
Oh, wow.
who most would expect to be there defensively.
Yeah, I should have realized that.
They're number 4, and they're number 2 offensively, right behind Denver, as Russell Wilson has really taken a step up with given larger reins of the offense this season.
It's an explosive offense.
Yeah,
it really is.
They got Harbin healthy. Wilson has, they've taken the kid gloves off him now in his 3rd season. So they look really dominant. On
And we can just curb this conversation because, spoiler alert, we will be talking about this team later on in the show.
So before we get on to your Week 6 plays, we do have one question this week as part of our Outlet Pass segment, getting a little assist from the fans out there. So this is from Bellevue Dog, across the pond over in Manchester, England.
Great dude.
Great guy. He seems to really enjoy the podcast, so thanks for listening. And here's his question. He wants to know, what is the best underdog to bet this week to win straight up? Dan, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, we're actually going to go over my plays later, and I actually have a couple underdogs. I'll tell you right now, the Bills are going to beat the Patriots this weekend.
All right, so he likes the Bills with that solid defense that we talked about.
I do, and everyone just saw New England on Sunday night, and everyone's just coming to the conclusion that they're back and they figured things out. And I think that it's a perfect opportunity now to fade them. Still have a crappy offensive line. Defensive line is the Bills' biggest strength. Brady's going to be pressured all day. I think it's going to be an ugly game, and I think the Bills are going to build with that. What I heard in the preseason was the Bills were excited about their team. As a team, they really were high on themselves, but no one on the team could stand E.J. Manuel. The players were going to the coaching staff and saying, this guy can't hit us. We're getting open. This guy can't hit us. We can really be something if you just get us a veteran quarterback. Eventually, they caved. They got rid of all their young backups. They got rid of Thad Lewis. They got rid of Jeff Toole. They brought in Matt Leinart for a week and then got rid of him right away. And they ended up just bringing Kyle Orton in out of retirement. And
here's $5 million. Hey, do you want to come?
Yes.
Want to come play quarterback in the NFL?
But
yeah, sure.
That move meant a little more to the Bills than it seemed because they knew that the players knew all along that A.J. Manuel was terrible. And I know how much it's weird to say Kyle Orton as a savior, but say what you want, he's a professional quarterback.
Yeah.
He can hit the receivers in stride.
He can hit Sammy Watkins on an 8-yard slant.
Exactly. And this team I love looking at the mental side of the game. And I think this team right now, they just had that win against Detroit, and now they come home with a game against the Patriots. This is their chance to make a statement. Be like, hey, you know what? You're going to have to go through us to win this division this year, and you're going to have to pay for that slow start that you had. And I think they come in, and I think they take care of business and win the game.
And it could be a similar situation. I remember that home game where they had just been sold. The crowd was going crazy. That big win over Miami. Well, the owners just ratified, had the vote, and they agreed that they're officially the owners now. They're coming off of a victory last week, so it wouldn't surprise me to see the similar crowd there in Buffalo and really be a great atmosphere for them to lift them up.
It's a great atmosphere. You have the torture franchise. It's been terrible for so long, and when you have a franchise like that and they start to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, they pick up some momentum, get some confidence, they can be scary.
And when you got Kyle Orton to believe in, nothing can go wrong.
You know what? Just put the ball near Sammy Watkins. That guy will make plays.
Yeah, get the ball to C.J. Spiller and
in
Watkins.
Space. Yeah.
All right, so that's your pick for underdog to win straight up. You like Buffalo. I'm gonna give two with a caveat. So one I really like. I like Washington. They're currently about 2.5-point underdogs, and there's a lot of uncertainty in that line because it's not certain who's going to be the starting quarterback this week for Arizona. Carson Palmer might be back after a few weeks off with his injury, or they could have to resort to Logan Thomas as their starting quarterback.
Drew Stanton's undergoing concussion protocol too, so I mean he doesn't necessarily have to miss this week either. It's just very unlikely.
It's pretty much considered that he's going to be out. But yeah, you're right. It's possible. We don't know officially at this point. But getting them as underdogs right now, I think it's pretty much a 50-50 shot that Logan Thomas is the starter this week. And if that's the case, then the line will drop a lot more. Washington might even be favored. The line could shift that much. And conversely, if Palmer is the starter, I don't see a whole big shift in the line. Maybe it would move to 3-4 at the most. And I still like Washington in that spot to win straight up. Calais Campbell, their best defensive player, is out after that chop block from Julius Thomas last week. And even if Palmer's in the lineup, he's bound to have some rust. And it's not been an outstanding offensive unit at any point this season, even when Palmer was in there. So Washington looked better last week. Cousins had a better performance. Actually, pretty good considering they were playing Seattle, and it wasn't the terrible play that he had 2 weeks ago when everybody dropped off the Cousins bandwagon. And I just think that's a pretty good spot for Washington this week.
I have a sports ticker up right now that has all the offshore books and what the current lines are. Of the top 10 books, 7 of them have this game off the board, meaning they're not offering a line at all.
Okay.
3 of them have the Arizona Cardinals as 4-point favorites.
All right, so I think getting Washington at +4, or at whatever the money line equivalent of a +4 would be, that would be good value. The other one I like that's really good value, I like the Jaguars. They're +6, so you'd be getting really good odds to take them straight up. I think there's a lot of talk right now that the Titans are going to go with Zach Mettenberger at quarterback this week. So getting an unproven rookie in essentially his first extended NFL action as 6-point favorites, I think that's a pretty good deal to be on the other side as a bettor. And let's face it, Jacksonville's probably not going to go 0-16. So there's going to be spots this year where they're going to pull out a win or two. And playing against a Titans team that could be starting a rookie quarterback, and if not, they might be going Charlie Whitehurst, who doesn't inspire much confidence in me. They lost Bernard Pollard last week, their second defensive starter that's now out for the season, on a unit that hasn't been too formidable to begin with. They just allowed Cleveland to come back for the biggest road comeback in NFL history. So
that was disgusting.
Yeah, really an atrocious performance by them to give that game away. So I think if you want not a long shot, but somebody that you can get really good odds on, I like Jacksonville straight up this week.
I completely see every point that you made there, and they all make sense. But this is a team in Jacksonville that they were spotted 17 points by the Eagles in Week 1. Last week they got the Pittsburgh Steelers playing as sloppy an offensive game as they're going to play all season. And not only could they not come close to winning, they couldn't even cover the spread in any of those games.
That's fair.
I completely agree with everything you're saying. The Titans have been disgusting, but you know what? Mettenberger, at least he has an arm. Charlie Whitehurst doesn't even have an arm. And you get these secondary guys on Jacksonville, and you have Justin Hunter and Kendall Wright running routes. I mean, anyone who can just throw the ball near them can make something happen. And I just feel like Jacksonville is going to find a way to lose. However, you're taking a stand here, and you're thinking outside the box. I went with a 3-point underdog that really could win, and no one would be all that surprised. You're taking the worst team in the NFL. So that's an interesting play. And you know what? I can absolutely see it happening. this has to be one of their few chances all year to get a win.
Yeah, that's my thinking there. So thanks for the question, and we'll now move on to our Week 6 plays for you. You got counted up here five plays on the docket, and we'll start with a total for you this week. And you like the Falcons Chicago over 54, and that game is in the Dome in Atlanta.
Oh yeah, this game's going to be fun. This game, both teams are going to be in the 30s, in my opinion. I don't know how to really analyze an over/under except for saying at home Atlanta's offense is fantastic. Chicago's defense is pretty crappy. Atlanta's defense is pretty crappy. I think Matt Forte is going to have a huge game. I think Alshon Jeffrey's going to have a huge game. I think Julio Jones is going to have a huge game. I think this is going to be one of those rivalry games that just goes back and forth with the scoring. They set the line at 54. That's about the best they can do at this point in the season. But I don't think you could really set a line high enough here. This one plays in the 60s.
Were they rivals? Is there a history of? Is there bad blood between the Falcons and Bears?
Oh yeah, way back from the 2001 Rex Grossman versus Chris Chandler. Nah, I don't know. I feel like they played a lot. I don't know. I was just talking out of my rear.
All right. Well, anyway, I agree with you.
Yeah, they have a lot of good players who are going to score a lot of points.
Two good offenses, two poor defenses. Atlanta, third in the NFL offensive DVOA. Julio Jones leading the NFL in pretty much all the receiving categories.
He's taken the leap this year. That dude's an absolute monster on the football field.
Yeah, I mean, he took the leap 2 years ago.
He just happened to get hurt last
season. But he certainly looks back to form, which is very good news for the Falcons fans out there. And yeah, neither defense has shown anything this season, so 54 seems like a reasonable number, especially on that turf inside the Dome. I agree with you there. All right, so you like Atlanta, Chicago over 54. Moving on to your second play, which is your first of 3 home dogs that you like. It's Tampa Bay plus 3.5 at home against the Ravens.
I mean, this week there's a ton. Not even in the games I didn't have any side in. There are a ton of road favorites this week. A lot of times that means the public takes a whooping from the books. Sometimes it means the public crushes the books. We're going to see. But generally, when there's a slate like this, I like to look at my favorite home dogs. Tampa Bay is one of them. It's 3.5 points. I love that hook. Baltimore's offense never looks all that good on the road. They struggled last week on the road. And Tampa Bay's shown signs of life. Tampa Bay, since Mike Lennon's taken over, they won a game against Pittsburgh on an exciting last-second score. And then they took New Orleans to overtime and really could have won that game. Mike Lennon looks good. Vincent Jackson seems like he cares again. This team at home, I don't think, is anything to be reckoned with. And it's one of those scenarios where that half point, I think, means a lot more than just a half point. Because you can make the argument that good teams like Baltimore can struggle in a situation like this, but they'll find a way to pull it out. Great. They can pull it out by kicking a last-second field goal. I'll still take my cover.
Okay. Well, for me, I agree with a lot of the points you made. Baltimore is definitely a different team on the road than they are at home. For me, it's kind of a stay away. I know that Tampa Bay has looked better since Glennon has taken over, but as we talked about, Baltimore is one of the 4 teams in the NFL that's top 10 on both sides of the ball. They don't really have a lot of weaknesses. They're not terrific at running back, but they have the guys that can get the job done. They're not terrific in the passing game, but they get just enough out of Steve Smith and the rest of that core to move the ball up and down the field. And defensively, they don't have a lot of the big names that they used to, but Jimmy Smith has been great in that secondary for them, and they've been getting just enough out of that pass rush to do some things. So for me, it just comes down to not trusting Tampa Bay, and for me, that's why it's a stay away. But I understand why you like Tampa Bay at home this week, getting 3.5. That's a pretty good number to get them at.
I also like the 70% of the public on Baltimore right now.
Yeah, always good to feed the public as a rule. All right, so that's your second play of the week. You like Tampa Bay plus 3.5. Moving on, we already talked about them some, but Buffalo, you like them plus 3 at home against the Patriots.
I basically broke this game down already when we were discussing Buffalo. I think this is a flat spot for New England, huge spot for Buffalo to come in and show the Patriots that they have some actual competition this year. And I think that the Patriots didn't really show me much on last week. What I saw more was a huge collapse by Cincinnati, a team that year in and year out are good when you're not paying attention to them, but the second you start talking about them, or the second they're in the playoffs and something really matters, they completely fall apart. I'm not looking at that game as, oh my goodness, the Patriots are back, and getting 3 points, fading them on the road against a team that has looked competent. I'll do that. And like I said, I think Buffalo wins the game outright.
Yeah, we touched on everything already. I feel like that Buffalo crowd should be really into it. I don't have it in front of me, but I always feel like Buffalo plays New England tough at home.
You know, it's funny because they play them tough, but I think New England's won like 20 of the last 21 matchups against Buffalo.
I don't know what it is. It always feels like when it's in Buffalo, New England has needed their last second drive or something.
And more often than not, they've gotten it.
I mean, that could just be selective memory on my part. I don't know.
Correct.
But, I do like them +3 this week. I agree with you there. It's a huge letdown spot for the Patriots coming off that big win, and the public is bound to be crushing the Patriots side this week. So.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on to your fourth play. You like another home dog, and that is the Rams on Monday Night Football. They're +3.5 at home against the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm huge on the Rams. I've liked them since before. Like they say in Brokeback Mountain, I just can't quit you. I can't quit the Rams. I can't quit Austin Davis.
You love Austin Davis.
You know what's crazy?
Like Heath Ledger loved his partner.
If you took the game against Dallas when they went up 21-0 in the first half, and then the game against Philly where they came back in the second half, it's like if you put those two together, they played one full incredible game, and then one full awful game.
Shame that's not how football works.
I just like this team. I like what I see. Now they come home. They have San Francisco, who's overvalued because of their name. To me, they look a mess. Kaepernick doesn't look anywhere near as good as he has in the past this year. And now they play on the roads. Like I said, I love these home dogs, especially when I can get that extra half point above the field goal. And Seattle has weapons. They have Brian Quick, who's a very, very good receiver. Jared Cook, as much as I was pissed off when he dropped that ball against Dallas because I really had St. Louis big that game, he's a good tight end. Kendricks, good tight end. They can run these crazy plays with Stedman Bailey and Tavon Austin. They're just a fun team to watch, and they play like it. They play when they're on the field. You could tell that they play like they have nothing to lose, and I always respect a team like that. And at home, I'll take 3.5 points with a team like that. Yeah,
you talked a lot about the Rams, and the Niners have just been so underwhelming this season. Even last week, they happened to win, but they weren't leading for a good portion of the game. It was a very unconvincing victory, and as Chip Kelly said, tough 4-1, soft 4-1, and still 4-1 or whatever. You could say the same thing for the 49ers. Yeah, win's a win, but in projecting future performance, you still have to look at the quality of those wins and how they looked in doing so. And they've been very unimpressive. So I could definitely see the Rams keeping this one close.
And this might be the game where it finally does fall apart for San Francisco. And I really do believe the rumors that there's turmoil going on with Harbaugh.
Yeah, there's just too much smoke at this point not to believe there's a fire somewhere. All right, so your fifth and final play of Week 6, you like Seattle -9 at home against the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas 4-1, but 9-point underdogs. Not too often you see that, huh?
No, not at all. You guys are getting a little bored of these 3-point underdogs. Now we got some chalk to lay here.
Yeah, here's a little something different for you.
All right, Dallas has looked very good. As an Eagles fan, I'm scared. I thought we had the division locked up. It doesn't look that way anymore. Giants and Cowboys both look competent. But Dallas just won their 4th game in a row. They're coming into Seattle. After that, they have 2 division games. I think that Dallas is going into this game with the mindset, don't get crushed. Don't let this game impact the rest of the season. Because that does happen when teams go into Seattle. They get beat up. DeMarco Murray could get hit really hard. Like, he gets hurt almost every single year. People are talking right now like it's only a matter of time before he does.
Yeah, all the talk this week has been
how many carries he's
let's give him less work.
Yes.
That's not what you want to. That's not the thing you want to dominate the conversation heading into a game against arguably the best team in the league.
And don't get me wrong, I know this is the NFL. No team ever goes into a game with the mindset, we know we're going to punt this game because it's not that important, because every game is important. There's only 16 games in this season. But I think that Dallas knows that there's a lot more damage that could be done to this team other than just losing this game. And they're going to do everything they can to avoid it. Seattle we talked about how high-powered their offenses looked, and that's considering Percy Harvin had 3 touchdowns called back by penalty on Monday. Russell Wilson's looking great, and Dallas' secondary still has yet to be exposed in grand form like I expected them to be. I think this is the time it happens. I think you see those 9 points with a 4-1 team. You're tempted to take the underdog, but I think this is one of those games where it's just going to be a rout. Seattle by 15 or more.
I agree. Seattle at home, we know they're a whole different animal with that 12 fan behind them. And, yeah, Dallas has looked good offensively, but as not terrible as the defense has looked, I think that Seattle offensive attack is just going to shred it. I mean, they've looked really good in all facets of the game. Lynch has been doing his usual beast mode stuff. Harvin has opened up a whole other dimension for them offensively, and we talked about this, but Russell Wilson looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now.
He became the third,
not just a game manager, but just legitimately one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
He became the third quarterback in NFL history to pass for 200 yards and rush for 100 yards in the same game.
And the most rushing yards ever in a Monday Night Football game. So just really impressive stuff from Seattle, and their defense has been just solid as it always is. So,
and if Dallas leaves Seattle with Romo perfectly healthy, DeMarco Murray not dinged up, and Dez Bryant completely healthy, there's no moral victories in the NFL. But if this game, if they can stay fresh for the division games coming up, I think they're more or less going to be okay with that.
I don't know if that's exactly their mindset, but I think as long as they don't lose by 30, they just don't want to derail the confidence that the season has been building for them.
Yes.
So I agree. I like Seattle, even giving the points there. All right. So to recap: Atlanta, Chicago over 54, Tampa Bay plus 3.5, Buffalo plus 3, St. Louis plus 3.5, and Seattle minus 9. So good luck to everybody
We're
else.
Also starting another 10-point teaser. But we're doing it. We're doing one of my crazy 10-point teasers. We're starting it, and then we're leaving 2 open spots.
All right, I missed that one.
We're starting it with the Denver Broncos. We're going to tease them from -9 down to +1. So basically, they have to win the game, and then 2 open spots. Some people don't like doing this. Some people don't like having the play in limbo for this long, but I like it. It makes you not willing to force the play. I think this is an easy win, and basically, I think I'm giving myself a free 2-team 10-point teaser for weeks going forward.
All right, so the 6th and final play of the week is Denver getting teased down to +1. I don't think anybody would argue that the Jets have a chance this week, given how they looked last week, and I guess could hesitate just based on the possible running back situation for Denver, but to be honest, Monte Ball has looked awful all season anyway. I think whoever they throw out there, whether it be Hillman, Juwan Thompson, or C.J. Anderson, they could possibly be an upgrade.
It's also a look-ahead spot for Denver, and a road game, West Coast team coming east. All that, I just don't see them losing the game. Even if they struggle and don't maybe not cover the whole spread, they're not going to lose to the Jets.
Yeah, the day Peyton Manning loses to Geno Smith is the day I'll be very surprised to see come.
So I guess that's considered a play. That's like a half or a third of a play. So 5 1/3 plays this week.
Unless it loses, then it's
a full loss.
Then it's a full loss. All right, so that's the 6th and final play. So let's look forward to a lot of wins this week. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And we'll catch you next time.
Just keep it going.